Okay, let's call this episode -3. Recently on Presh Talwalkar's channel, Mind Your Decisions, there was a problem that involved a series of inputs, 1, 2, 3, and 10, and we're given that the outputs from those inputs are respectively 5, 10, and 55. And we're supposed to find the output for 10. There is a method of doing this that is shown on Mind Your Decisions that works well, and you should definitely go look at that. It's probably the right way to solve it. There's also a method that involves not having to know really any algebra or much of anything if we're willing to make a few simple assumptions. Okay, you have to know arithmetic, but let's write these down, 5, 10, 55, and just take the difference between those successive numbers. So here, 10 minus 5 is 5. 55 minus 10 is 45. And then we're going to build up our little pyramid here and also figure out what's the difference between 5 and 45. That's going to be 40. These correspond to the numbers 1, 2, and 3. So far, that doesn't tell us very much, but we can, by adjusting my camera over so that you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Yeah, there's a reason I wrote cheap up there at the top of the board. We can imagine extending this pattern out. What if I stick another 40 here? Put in some little lines so that I can keep track of what I'm doing. Another 40 here. Then this number, 45 plus 40, becomes 85. And here we would write 55 plus 85, which is, give me a second, 140. Now I've managed to run out of space here. For those of you who have seen the presentation, really sorry about this. Cheap. Did I mention cheap? You gotta get a little bird as a mascot here. Cheap, cheap. For those of you who have seen the solution on Mind Your Decisions, you can check that actually if you plug in 4 to the quadratic equation that they derived as the answer on that channel, you actually do get 140. That would be encouraging. I'm gonna pause for a minute here and write out the bigger version of this little pyramid. So having jumped ahead here quite a bit, we come to this little diagram. This is just the extension of what I was doing up above with 1, 2, 3, and 4. Our top layer of our sort of pyramid is always the number 40. The next layer is just starts with 5 and then is 5 plus 40, then 45 plus 40 is 85, 85 plus 40 is 125, and so on. And then the bottom layer again starts with 5 and adds these numbers that are above that. So 5 plus 5 is 10, 10 plus 45 is 55, 55 plus 85 is 140, and so on. And we come eventually out here to 1,165. On this next row up, we've got 285. We add 40 to that. We get 325. We add 325 to 1165, and we get 1490, which is the same answer that was derived on Mind Your Decisions by using a quadratic equation. One of the big points that I'm trying to make here is there's always more than one way to do something in mathematics. Here we have no little x squareds, no negative numbers, just the answer to our problem following what seemed to be the pattern that was given by this little section of the triangle over there. Extending that out. I don't remember at what point I learned this, but it is potentially a little trick that can be used and makes a certain amount of sense, I think, probably even to the postulated 8-year-olds mentioned in the original statement of the problem over on Mind Your Decisions. Assuming I do future episodes of this cheap little thing that I'm doing here, I hope to explore some questions that can reasonably come up when you're trying to solve one of these things on Mind Your Decisions. Sometimes you can ramble off in strange ways and find whole new branches of mathematics that weren't intended by the original statement of the problem. So as they used to say, stay tuned. With a little luck, I'll be next week with episode -2. I'm hoping eventually to get up to episode 1 where things will look halfway decent, but I intend to keep exploring some of the problems from Mind Your Decision or other YouTube channels and exploring possibly never coming up with the right answer. And sometimes those fun little tangents in math end up being more important than the original problem. That's all I've got for right now. Hope to be back next week with another really cheap video. See ya.